Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So yeah, I'm going to try and piece together a few things, continue from where I left off yesterday. I just want to start this before I crack into talking about my late father. I got a comment, it wasn't even on my channel actually. I was replying to, I'd left a comment on Kirky Talks' channel from his last video where he's discussing the topic of maybe sort of one day leaving the UK, because I think, like so many people, I think he's probably just had enough of it by now. So I left a comment on that, regarding that, because you know I'm living here in France. I've been here since I was 21 or whatever, so I thought I'd chip in on that. And then someone left a reply to the comment that I'd made from a French person, who had quite a lengthy comment, quite a few questions to ask me. I think one of them was, do you live in the sort of beautiful countryside? To which, yeah, I guess I could say that I'm fairly lucky where I live. I do live in a nice part of Brittany, which is about, I'd say I'm about 20 minutes from the coast, so not far to go if I want to go to the beach. But I do like being inland here a bit. It's nice and quiet, not much hassle. I think another one of the questions that they asked was, because I'd said in the comment that eventually I want to leave France. I can't see myself sort of growing old here, or I don't want to retire here, because by the time I retire, my money won't go very far. So yeah, so I sort of said that my plan was to leave France. I mean, I've got kids, so it's a bit tricky. My youngest is he's going to be, well, he'll be 10 next year. So ideally, with a bit of luck, if he takes after his dad, he'll be independent at a fairly young age. So I'll probably have to give it like maybe another 10 years here before I can think about going somewhere else. I think ideally I'd like to go somewhere like Southeast Asia, where cost of living's cheap, people are friendly, and the weather's a damn sight better than it is here, because where I live here, the weather's the same as in sort of southern England. A lot of rain, very damp, very humid, which isn't really good for me personally, because I've got several issues with my elbows and my shoulders and my back and my knees. My joints are fucked basically from doing the job that I've been doing a very physical job. So yeah, ideally I want to go somewhere hot, somewhere where I haven't got joint pain, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I just thought I'd answer those questions quickly before I jump in and try and crack on with the rest of the story that I was talking about yesterday. One of the sort of reasons that I want to discuss talking about my late father, because it's like I'm sort of doing this exercise as a bit of a self-therapy type thing. I find it very cathartic, even if I'm just talking to myself on the camera about it. It is doing me good, because I don't want to pile everything on the shoulders of my girlfriend and all that sort of stuff. So she's got her own problems with her life as well. So I try not to tell her too much about what I'm sort of going through, and this trying to get through this sort of the grieving process. I mean, it's something I've got absolutely no experience in. It's like the first person I've ever been really close to, that's passed away. So I'm sort of learning as I go, and you know, making it up as I go along type thing. Trying to deal with it in my own way, and trying to get through it as best I can. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to deal with, losing a parent, especially when you're so close to them. So yeah, at the end of yesterday's video, I was talking about my dad's sort of life, his early life, which wasn't much fun for him. I don't think he had it very hard. I mean, he was, because his mum, like I said yesterday, his mum died when he was 18 months old, and his dad committed suicide when he was about 13, 14. So he was an orphan by the time he was 14, and then raised 100% by his grandma, who was quite old at that time. So yeah, not an easy childhood, but he turned it around. Knuckled down at school eventually, after getting expelled from one of the schools that he was at. So yeah, his cousin that was a bit older than him helped him out a lot there, put him on the straight and narrow sort of thing, got him on the right track in life. So yeah, my dad turned out all right. When he'd nearly finished university, he had a girlfriend at the time, and she ended up getting pregnant. So that was my dad's first kid that he had, which isn't ideal when you're still doing your studies to have to be a dad then. So yeah, that put the pressure on him that as soon as he'd qualified as a dentist, he had to start earning some money, because he already had a family. So yeah, that was my dad's first wife. He ended up having 3 kids with her, 2 girls and a boy. So they're like my half brother and sisters. I mean, I'm technically the youngest of seven kids, because my mum was married before as well. She had 2 daughters from her previous marriage. My dad had 3 from his previous marriage. And then when my parents got together, they thought that they'd like to have maybe like 1 kid, together sort of thing. So that was my older brother, 1978 he was born. And I don't think they wanted to have any more kids after that, because they had 6 by then. That's probably enough for anyone. And then I turned up in 1982, which was not planned. I think my mum had been taking a contraceptive pill, but I think they might have had a party one night or something, or been somewhere, and she ended up barfing up. And shortly after that, my parents had a bit of fun on the beach, where we used to live down in Devon. And then so my mum got pregnant again. So yeah, that was lucky for me that happened, but I'm one of those sort of afterthought accident type babies. Wasn't at all planned. So yeah, that's just a bit of a rundown of my family sort of thing. So yeah, sort of going back to talking about my dad instead of digressing too much. Yeah, I mean, like, the reason I want to sort of talk about him is just to sort of try and immortalise him in some way. I mean, obviously I'm never going to forget him. How could you forget your parents or whatever? But it's just to sort of try and keep it all sort of fresh in the mind type thing. I don't know, it's hard to explain. You'll understand if you've been through it, or you're going through it, or whatever. Yeah, just to sort of try and do his memory justice type thing. Just sort of, if he is up there watching me, I'd like him to be sort of proud of me and stuff like that. Because when he first got ill with cancer, it was just literally about a month before the famous Chinese-based disease kicked in. I'll try not to say too many words that will get me banned or whatever, but it was about a month before all that nonsense happened. My parents were on holiday in southern Spain at the time, because they had a camper van, and they didn't really like the the crappy sort of winter that you have up in this part of the world. So most winters they'd go down to the south of Spain with a camper van and spend like 4 or 5 months down there type thing, which a lot of people do. So yeah, so they were down there, and I think it was like just after, must have been literally just after New Year. I remember getting a WhatsApp video call from my dad, and I could see that he was like in a hospital bed. So I was like, what the hell's going on there? And he didn't really know what was going on either, and he just sort of said that he'd like collapsed or something when they're on the campsite, and he got rushed to hospital. Yeah, so I phoned up my brothers and sisters or whatever, and we all decided to get down there as soon as possible, because my mum hadn't told anybody about it. Classic mum, didn't want to worry anybody. So yeah, so we all piled down to Spain, down to southern Spain in bloody January. I ended up riding my motorbike down there because at the time my passport had run out. So I thought, oh, if I take the car and I get stopped at the border with an out-of-date passport, that's going to piss me off. So at the time I had a Royal Enfield Himalayan, which is like a sort of trail bike type thing, adventure bike. And I thought, well, at least if I get stopped at the border, I know a route like up some tracks that goes over the Pyrenees. I've done that before. I've crossed the French-Spanish border on that bike without having to go for any border crossing or anything. So I thought, well, you know, if push comes to shove, then I can just sort of cane it up the mountain and down the other side again without going along the road. So, but anyway, I got to the border and there was no passport check or anything. So I rode all the way down to southern Spain from northern Brittany on my bike in January. It was freezing cold. It took me about 16 hours. I don't really want to repeat that again. Yeah, so we all got down to Spain. My dad was in hospital in Cadiz. Absolute shithole, Cadiz. And the hospital's terrible. I mean, like Spanish hospitals, you don't get a room to yourself. You're sharing a room with like 3 or 4 other people. And in Spain, when you're in hospital, there isn't a hell of a lot of nursing. It's mainly up to the family to come in and do what sort of nurses do. Do you know what I mean? Give you a bed bath and all that sort of business. So luckily, when we all went down there, there was a lot of us, and 2 of my sisters, they've done a lot of work in sort of care homes and nursing homes, stuff like that. So we were well equipped to deal with what was going on. And I think my dad was probably in the hospital there for maybe 2 weeks or something, because they didn't really know what exactly was wrong with him. So he ended up having tests done and all this sort of crap. And after a couple of weeks, they sort of, you know, got the diagnosis back, and he was diagnosed with liver cancer. He had 2 tumours on his liver, and they were pretty much inoperable, which is an absolute fucker, because he'd given up drinking as well. He'd given up drinking for about a year and a half, hadn't touched anything. Yeah, had loads of tests done, and you know, the results of these tests were like the liver was perfectly healthy, because the liver is like the only organ in your body that can repair itself. So if you give up drinking for like a year and a half, your liver's perfect again, which my dad's was, but somehow he got 2 bloody tumours on it, which is just completely unfair. So yeah, we ended up going for a bit of a nightmare with their health insurance, trying to get them repatriated back to France, because as all insurance companies, they'll try their best to get out of paying, even if you're fully covered or whatever. So yeah, it took a while to get that sorted out. Eventually they coughed up, and they paid for my dad to get flown back on like a sort of private medical jet. Looks like a sort of Lear jet, but better, because these jets, because they're taking people in very bad states of health, they have to fly really, really high to fly above the turbulence. So yeah, they coughed up about, I don't know, 8 or 9 grand for like a sort of hour and 20-minute flight back home type thing. Thank God, because yeah, I don't know what would have happened if they didn't want to pay up. That would have been very, very, very tricky trying to get him back home. So yeah, we got the old man back home, and I think he spent about a week in the hospital where we live here, and then we managed to get him. He was well enough to sort of come back home. But you know, obviously with the diagnosis and all that, it was only sort of palliative care that could be offered to him, which was, you know, chemotherapy, just trying to sort of slow down the growth of these tumours that he had on his liver. So yeah, there's a few different types of chemotherapy, and he decided to go for it's just like chemotherapy pills that he had to take. But yeah, when he started taking these pills, it didn't. You could see that it wasn't doing him any good. Just made him feel sick all the time. Had no appetite. Just started to lose weight at a pretty quick sort of rate. I mean, he was a big guy. He was like 6 foot tall. You know, broad across the chest, you know, that sort of thing. But he was just sort of turning into more of a skeleton, really. Lost all the sort of, you know, lost all the colour in his face, and he's just getting thinner and thinner. So yeah, I mean, this is all going on when there was that famous Chinese sickness that was going around. So yeah, that didn't really help, because my mum was really scared that he was going to catch that and that would finish him off, sort of thing. Understandable. So because I was working at the time, you know, you had to keep your distance and all that sort of thing. So my mum wouldn't let me in the house to sort of go and see him. All I wanted to do was just give him a hug and stuff like that, but I couldn't. You know, I had to talk at him like through the window of the house type thing. So yeah, that was really shit. Yeah, I hope none of that crap happens again. You know, that went on. It seemed to go on forever. So yeah, I mean, like, my dad battled with this for pretty much like 2 years, and he was just going further and further downhill. And he didn't want to go back into hospital again, like, ever. He'd spent enough time in hospital, hated it. So my mum and dad made the decision. In France, there's a thing that you can sign up for when you've got like a terminal illness, which is called hospitalisation à domicile, which means hospital care at home. So that's what they wanted. And it's really good, much better than going into the hospital. So yeah, I mean, when my dad got really, really bad and he could hardly sort of walk, that type of thing, pretty much bedbound, we got like, they delivered us like a proper hospital bed, you know, fully electric, all that sort of gubbins. So yeah, they installed that into my dad's bedroom, and he was just in the bed the whole time then. So yeah, that was pretty shit. because he was such a smart guy, most intelligent bloke I've ever met, always the smartest guy in the room. And the trouble is, when you've got this sort of liver cancer and these tumours are fucking up the sort of the job of the liver, so your body's essentially just getting poisoned because your blood isn't being cleaned properly and that sort of thing. And the sort of result of that is that it's starting to it affects your brain in a huge way, because your brain is just bathing in really poor quality dirty blood type thing. So his memory started to go big time. He always had a fantastic memory before he got ill. Pretty much, I'd say it was almost like a photographic memory. He could remember anything. But yeah, his memory was going big time, and sort of like getting to that stage where just sort of drifting in and out of consciousness. And he was on morphine at this point, permanently rigged up to this morphine device where you could just press the button and it gives you a shot type thing, because he's in so much pain as well. Absolutely horrendous. So yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't want anyone to go through that kind of experience, having to witness someone that you love, and it's just like on a daily basis, you're just seeing them just sort of disappear. You just sort of see the personality just goes, and you're just sort of left with like an empty shell at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, his goal was to try and, because he was always setting himself goals, especially when he was earlier on in life. Always had so much ambition and said, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do that. Oh, this time, a bit like Del Boy off Only Fools and Horses. He was like, oh, this time next year I'll be a millionaire, that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, when he was going through this cancer business early on in the cancer, he was like, oh, my goal is to get to Christmas, and he did that. And then the next goal was to get to see the next Christmas, and he did that. So he had 2 Christmases where he was still sort of with it, and then after the second Christmas, that's when he really started to go downhill quickly. And his goal after that second Christmas was to get to his birthday. His birthday was on 27th of April, but come that time, he was really, really ill. So he ended up dying. He died on the 25th of April. He almost made it to his birthday. Poor bugger. Yeah, so because this strange foreign-based Oriental disease was still going on and all that bullshit, his funeral was a fairly sad affair, more shitter than it should have been, because you're only allowed to have, here in France, you're only allowed to have 6 people at a funeral. So yeah, try and get your head around that. My dad always said that he didn't want a massive funeral anyway, because what did he care? He'd be dead. Which I sort of understood. And bloody hell, it's getting windy now. And I think shortly before, I think David Bowie had died, and he was the same. He just wanted to have a sort of direct cremation, burn the body and fuck it sort of thing. No, there's no point wasting loads of money on a funeral. It's bad enough spending like 30 grand on a wedding, but to spend loads of money on a funeral is just fucking pointless. So my dad opted for that, direct cremation, and then scatter the ashes in the cemetery. So we did that, but there's only 6 of us there. There should have been a lot more people there. Yeah, so it's left a massive hole in my life, which I'm still coming to terms with. Still trying to get my head around the fact that he's gone. Sometimes I have dreams, and he's in my dreams, and everything's fine, type thing. And then I wake up, and then it sort of hits me that he's not here anymore. You know, that pisses you off. Still so many things that we had planned to do. You know, he wasn't at all ready to check out. He was only 70, he's 74, and before he got ill he was in like perfect shape, still pretty physical, still really strong. He was, even when he was in his 70s he was stronger than me. He had good muscly sort of physique for his age. A fine specimen of a man, you could say. So yeah, I've sort of gone off on a bit of a tangent there again. So yeah, just doing these little therapy sort of talks. I hope if anyone's watching it, they can sort of take something from it if they've experienced the same sort of thing. Losing someone to cancer. It's an absolute headfuck. It's such an evil bloody disease. Doesn't really seem like it's going to get cured yet. Even though they've had a lot of time to work on it, you would have thought they'd get it sorted by now, but still no joy on that front. So yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap up this part of the story today. Sorry if it's been a bit morose, but it's just my way of trying to deal with it, to be honest with you. I think it does. I think it's helping me to just talk about it, even if it's just I'm just talking to my dogs. Hang on, go around the other tree, you idiot. So yeah, I'll wrap this one up for today. Because it takes me so long to upload anything. It's an absolute nightmare. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this one up. It's just starting to rain as well, which is pretty crap. It's freezing here today. That's another reason why I want to eventually leave. Well, that's probably the main reason why I want to leave France. Apart from the cost of everything, it's the bloody weather. Winters are so long here. Very cold. So I'm going to get myself back, get in front of the fire, watch a bit of football on the telly. I'm going to watch the Plymouth Derby game. So we'll probably lose that, as we normally do. And I'll crack on with it tomorrow. I'll try and be a little bit more upbeat on the discussion. So leave a comment. Leave a comment about anything you like. Doesn't have to be about what I've been talking about today. Send me some questions about anything. Feel free. I like engaging with people. So yeah, thanks for watching again, and I'll crack on with this tomorrow. Okay, take care. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.